Hello, fourth graders. This is Mrs. Fox here, and today we are going to be working on Module 4, Lesson 8. And in today's lesson, we're going to be working on identifying and measuring angles as turns. So for part of this lesson, you're going to stand up and I'm going to give you some directions, and you're going to have to turn a certain degrees and face another direction. And then we're also going to have to learn how to recognize those same terms in various contexts, like in our practice book. What other ways would you be able to recognize a 360-degree turn, for example, or a 180-degree turn? Okay, and so the degrees of turns that we're going to be working on today are 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 360 degrees, okay? So some of those benchmark turns that we talked about in our previous lessons last week. All right, like every lesson, we always do a little bit of review. And so we're going to review. We're going to break apart 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 360 degrees. If I start with 90 degrees and I am given 20 degrees, what is in this other number bond right here? There's a number bond underneath here. What is in that missing number bond? What is the other part to go along with 20 that would make up 90? Okay. If you said 70, you are correct. Okay, and then our next number bond is if we have 60 degrees, if we have 90 degrees and the given number is 60, what is our other missing number bond over here? Okay, so 60 plus 30 equals 90 degrees. Okay, let's go down to the bottom here. We have 90 and 40 degrees is one given number. What is our other missing given number? 40 plus how much equals 90? If you said 50, then you are correct. And for our final one, we have 90 degrees, and part of 90 is 45. What is the other missing part? Okay. Yes, the other missing part is 45 degrees. Okay, we're going to go on to some bigger numbers. All right, we're going to start right here. Okay, so I have 180 degrees, and part of, I forgot the degree symbols here, 180 degrees, and part of 180 degrees is 90. What's the other part that we're missing there? What other part? Okay, it is 90 degrees. Okay, let's go over here. I have 180 degrees. I'm given 130 degrees. How much more do I need to make 180 degrees? 50 degrees is how much I would need. Okay, let's look at these next two 180 degrees. I have 180 degrees total and 40 degrees. How many more degrees do I need to make 180? How many more? Okay, it should be 140. Okay, my next one is I have 180 degrees total, and I have 135 down here. How much else would I need? How many more, would I need to get to 180? Okay. Should be 45 degrees. Okay. Now we're going to move on to 360 degrees. And 360 degrees, if you'll remember from last week, is an entire circle. So if we think about that entire circle, and I take 90 degrees out of that circle, how much do I have left over? And I could just do a simple subtraction problem if I wasn't sure. So if I wasn't sure, I could do 360, subtract 90 to get my answer. But if you remember our lesson from benchmark angles, then maybe you will remember if we were to, this is really 1/4, right? 90 degrees is 1/4 of our entire circle. So you know that you have 3/4 left, and you would, if you remember, that 3/4 is 270 degrees. Okay. All right, let's take a look down here at the bottom three that we have. All right, I have 360 degrees, part of 360 degrees is 200. How much do I have? How much more do I need to make that 360 degrees? The correct answer is 160 degrees. All right, let's take a look at this one. I have 360. 180 is given to me. How much more do I need? Okay, the correct answer is 180, so half of a circle. Okay, and then finally, this one kind of goes along with the other one that we did earlier, so hopefully you remember. 360 degrees, and I'm given 270, so I could subtract, or if you remember your benchmark angles, then you would know that this would be just 90 degrees. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some clocks. So I'm going to show you an easy way to kind of draw a clock, because you might be asked to draw a clock on your practice book or maybe in an exit ticket or a quiz, and I want you to be able to know how to do that. So we're going to have to show the hands of the clock at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. So I kind of pre-drew some of those circles out. And one thing that's really easy to do is if you start with the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock, because they go straight up and down, okay? So if I just kind of use my protractor along this line, I know that 12 o'clock goes here and 6 o'clock goes directly underneath it, okay? And then my other benchmark numbers for making a clock are 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So kind of easy, because those are going to be the numbers that we're going to use anyways. Those are the numbers we're going to find. So on the rest of these clocks, and I could go ahead and fill in the numbers, right? The other numbers. So on the rest of the clocks, I'm going to quickly fill in my benchmark numbers here for telling time. And I can show you really quickly how I would go about filling in the other numbers. So I would just fill in, I know that there's 1 and 2, and they just need to be evenly spaced. 4 and 5, 7 and 8, 10 and 11. So if I wanted all of the numbers on there, that's what I could do. But since we're only looking at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock, I'm just going to go ahead and leave the other numbers off. I don't really need them. Okay, but I do want to know if I am showing that hands on the clock at 12 o'clock, I want to know how many degrees does that represent? Well, at 12 o'clock, the minute hand is at 12 o'clock, and the hour hand, the short little hour hand, is also at 12 o'clock. So if both of the hands of the clock are in the same position, that would show me 0 degrees. Okay, that would show me 0 degrees. Have not moved yet. Okay, but now the next one, if I'm going to show 3 o'clock, my short little hour hand needs to point to 3 o'clock, and my minute hand needs to point to 12 o'clock, and then the arc that this is the angle right here that I want to show. So what angle does 3 o'clock, what angle right in here does that show? Well, it looks like a 90-degree angle to me. Okay, all right, so the next one, 6 o'clock. My minute hand, oops, I think I drew that a little crooked. My minute hand goes straight down to 6, and my hour hand goes straight down to 6, and my minute hand goes straight up to 12 o'clock. So now I want to know, how far have I traveled? Because I started up here where both of my hands were at 12, and then I went halfway, right? I went just a little bit of arc, and now I've gone all this way. So how much does this arc represent right here? Well, I had 90 degrees right here, and then another, if you look, 90 degrees right here. So 90 plus 90 would equal 180 degrees. Okay, and finally I want to show 9 o'clock. So my hour hand, short hour hand goes to 9 o'clock, and then my minute hand goes to 12 o'clock. And I want to know how far I've traveled from both hands being all the way up here, all the way around. So I want to know my arc on the outside now. I know it's easy to get confused because you think, oh, look, that's 90 degrees, but I actually want to know what's out here. So it's really 90 plus another 90 plus another 90 to equal 270 degrees. Okay, now we're going to get into the part of the lesson where you're going to stand up. So I want you to stand up, and I want you to face a door in your house. I want you to face a door. And what I want you to do is you are just going to represent turns by using your body. Okay, you're not going to, we are not going to spin around super fast. This is going to be relatively slow. So what I want you to do, I want you to show me I want you to do a complete turn for me. So you're going to turn in a complete circle and end up facing that door once again. Okay, how many degrees did you just turn? Yes, a full turn of our bodies equals 360 degrees. Okay, all right, face the door again. This time, I want you to make a half turn. Okay, make a half turn. Where are you facing now? Should you be facing the door again? Or should you be facing something else? Okay, when I do a half turn, I'm facing the opposite direction that I just faced. So how many degrees did I turn if I'm facing the opposite direction of where I just faced? Okay, I would have turned 180 degrees. Okay, turn back to the front, which is going to be the door, right? We're using the door. Okay, so I want you to, now you're going to take a quarter turn to the left. Okay, I want you to take a quarter turn to your left. How many degrees did you go when you made a quarter of a turn? Okay, so let's think about our turns. A full turn was 360, a half of a turn was 180, and now we've done a quarter of a turn, which would be half of that. This is half of that. Half of 180 is 90 degrees. Okay? Now in the classroom, we sometimes do this, and everybody, I would start out and I would just say, okay, everybody do a quarter of a turn, and I wouldn't give a direction, and everybody would be facing in different directions, and everybody would laugh, and it would be so funny, and it's not really quite the same experience when you're at home. So maybe we can do that on a Zoom this week and see where everybody's facing. All right. I want you to pretend that I want you to face your door again, face that front of the room. And I want you to pretend that you are skateboarding down the road, or you're skateboarding in a park or something like that, and you do a 180 degree turn. I want you to think to yourself, okay, pretend that you're skateboarding and you do that 180 degree turn. You're really good at skateboarding and you can do a trick and you do a 180 degree turn. Which way would you be facing after that 180 degree turn? Okay. You should have been facing the opposite direction, right? You should have done a half of a turn to be facing the opposite direction in which you just came. Okay? All right, I want you to turn back to the beginning. Turn back to that front door that you're facing. And I want you to pretend that you and your family are driving down the road and it is an icy morning on your way to school, and all of a sudden the car does a 360 degree turn. I want you to imagine your car doing a 360 degree turn. What happened when you did that 360 degree turn? Okay. If you can imagine, your car is driving down the road and you lose control and all of a sudden you spin and your car does a 360 degree turn, it means that you would turn all the way around in one circle and be facing the same degree that you started in. Okay? All right. I want you to get your practice book and we're going to do some of the questions together. Okay, so go ahead and grab your practice book really quickly. We are on page 40 in our practice book. And we're just going to take a look. So up here we have a picture of somebody's yard. And it says that Joe, Steve, and Bob stood in the middle of the yard. Okay, so all three of those boys are standing in the middle of the yard. And they are facing the house. So kind of like facing the door, kind of like our activity that I just had you do. And it says that Joe turned 90 degrees to the right. Well, first of all, we better figure out our right and left, right? So If you haven't learned this trick before, you kind of put your hands together like this, and whichever hand makes an L, that is the left. Okay, so I'm just going to put an L over here and an R over here just to help me out. Okay, so Joe turned 90 degrees to the right. Okay, so Joe turned 90 degrees to the right, and so we want to know, name the object that each boy is now facing. So if Joe was facing the front and he turned 90 degrees to the right, he is now facing the fence. So I'm just going to write fence in there for him. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and answer the questions. Steve is going to turn 180 degrees to the right, and Bob is going to turn 270 degrees to the right. So I want you to write down after they've turned their, that's 90 degrees, right? After they've turned their degrees, I want you to write what object they are now facing, okay? And then we're going to take a look at number 2. Number 2, Monique looked at the clock at the beginning of class and at the end of class. How many degrees did the minute hand turn from the beginning of class until the end of class? So this is where we have to be careful. Which one is the minute hand and which one is the hour hand? Okay, so this tall one right here, and you might want to outline it or highlight it or something too. This tall one, the longer one, that is the minute hand, okay? So if we notice, the minute hand started at 12 o'clock, right? It started right here. So I'm just going to kind of mark that. And that minute hand traveled all the way around to right here, okay? So I can kind of make myself a little angle if I want to. It traveled all the way around here. So how many degrees did the minute hand turn from the beginning of class to the end of class? So I want you to write your answer out here with a degree sign, if you can figure that out. And hopefully our work that we did with clocks should have been able to help you with that one. Okay, you should be able to do number 3 on your own because we talked about that. Okay, and then here's Mr. Martin. Okay, maybe I should put Mickey ears on him. He's probably wearing his Mickey ears like Mrs. Martin always wears her Mickey ears, okay? Or at least that's just how I imagine them when they go places. They're both wearing their Mickey ears. Okay, so I put some Mickey ears on Mr. Martin, and he's driving away from his house without his wallet. But Mrs. Martin says that she wants some Starbucks, and so he had to go and do 180 degrees because he had to go home and get his wallet for her. So 180 degrees. Where would he be heading if he turned 180 degrees? Okay, so I want you to think about your protractor. I want you to think about it. And where is he heading now? I want you to write, where is he heading now? Okay. All right, on the next page, we have a clock. Oh, a knob. All right. It is like a dial on a timer, or maybe a some older ovens have knobs that look like this. So John turned the knob to the shower 270 degrees to the right. Draw a picture showing the position of the knob after he turned it. Okay, so I have to think to myself. I'm just going to use this one as an example. Okay, if I cut this in fourths, it's really easy to count by 90s, right? There's 90 degrees, there's 90, there's 90, there's 90, to make up my total circle of 360 degrees. Okay, so if I add 90 degrees, okay, I know he's not going to just turn it right to here, right? Because it started out here. So I know he didn't do that. And then this is another 90, so 90 plus 90 equals 180. So he didn't just turn it there, then there. And so then I would have to add another 90, so 90, then 180, and then our other benchmark fraction is 270 degrees. So he actually ended up turning that knob all the way over here. Okay. On our next one, Barb used her scissors to cut out a coupon from the newspaper. How many quarter turns does she need to turn the paper in order to stay on the line? Okay, so every time she gets to a corner, she has to turn it, right? So right now her scissors are facing this way. If she keeps cutting, she's going to cut air, right? So she has to turn her paper. She has to do one turn. So there's one turn, right? So there's one. Okay, and she's going to cut, and she's going to reach the end. And if she does not turn her paper, she's going to cut the air again. So I have to turn my paper again. Okay, so that's 2, so that she can go this way, right? So she's cutting, 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 cutting. Uh-oh, she gets to the end. Okay, she has to cut. She has to turn. So that was 3. So she cuts. Oh, but she has to do one more turn because she has to cut this way. So she actually has to make, she makes 4 quarter turns. Okay, in order to do that correctly, she had to make 4 quarter turns of the paper. All right, how many quarter turns does the picture need to be rotated for it to be upright? Okay, so we have this little doggy here. How many quarter turns? Now, it does not say which direction you need to go. So you could do a quarter turn to the left or a quarter turns to the right. And so I'm wondering, be specific when you answer this question, okay? Use some direction. So this one you're going to do on your own, and then this one you're going to do on your own as well, okay? So Meredith is facing north, so she's standing right here, and she is looking this direction, okay? She's going to turn 90 degrees to the right, and then she's going to turn 180 degrees more, and I want you to tell me which direction is she facing, okay? So you have to do 7 and 8 on your own. And then you also have to finish, Steve and Bob. You have to write the degree here on 2. You have to answer 3 and 4 on your own. I don't think it should be too hard for you, especially after the review that we did. So finish up your work. Make sure that you get caught up on Zern and any exit tickets that your teachers have for you. Have a wonderful day, 4th graders.